You ready, Haley? Yep. Okay. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Peru Plan Commission on June 25th to order. Roll call.
Jim Baker?
Yes.
Rick Day?
Yes.
Sandy Faust?
Yeah.
Joe Molinex?
Yes.
Jim Murphy? Absent. Ron Rylance?
Yes.
Dennis C?
Yes.
Mike Siblis?
Yes.
And Drew Stevenson?
Yes.
Okay. Reading and approving previous month's minutes.
I make a motion we suspend rules and dispense with the reading of the minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, old business, none. New business. Rezone parcel 5208-27-101-062-000-016, commonly known as 401 Washington Avenue, from an R1 to an R3. Says the applicant would like to make residence into a duplex. Is there anybody here for that?
Yes.
You want to come on up?
Randall Madden. I'm just looking to go to an R3.
Get closer.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
better.
I'm just looking to go from an R1 to an R3 for possible duplex. That's about it.
That's it? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I presume everybody's driven by and seen it.
Yeah.
Is that an existing rental now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Is it, how much parking is there?
There's the whole road, then there's plenty around back to do a huge driveway if I need to.
I'm just on the road, on the street.
Yeah.
That's all I'm concerned about. How many lots, how many spots are there?
Oh, I don't know, probably 3 at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any questions from anybody?
Anybody in the audience?
Okay. I make a motion. We vote on changing the zoning at 401 Washington Avenue from an R1 to an R3. Roll call.
I second the motion.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Jim Baker?
Yes.
Rick Day?
Yes.
Joe Molinex?
Yes.
Ron Rylance?
Yes.
Dennis C?
Yes.
Drew Stevenson?
Yes.
Mike Siblis?
Yes.
Sandy Faust?
Yes.
This will be in front of the city council next Monday.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. The next item is to amend the ordinance pertaining to bees. Up until now, it has been forbidden to have bees, beekeepers, beehives within the city limits. And the redoing of that, we would like to make it a little bit easier for people to raise bees, but still have a lot of rules and laws that they have to find. I'll read you what the new ordinance is going to say if we pass it. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to keep and raise bees within the city limits within 500 feet of any building or other structure where people dwell or reside or work or conduct a business, unless the owner or keeper of the bees contains them so that the bees are confined to their own premises, or keeps the bees at an elevation above the surface of the earth, which prevents them from alighting and working on and around round the dwellings and places of business within the prohibited distance. If the bees are not confined to his property, the owner or keeper of the bees shall keep them in an elevation of not less than 30 feet above the surface of the ground where they are kept. Bees kept within the city in violation of this section are declared a nuisance. The next item would be on conviction of a violation, the nuisance shall be abated immediately. Next one, if the owner or keeper fails immediately on conviction to remove the same, the police shall have the power and authority and are directed to abate the nuisance by removing the bees from the city limits at the cost and expense of the owner thereof. Any discussion?
I'd like to address this. I was the one that actually put this forward to get it considered. So, anyway, the ordinance that, now it needs to be changed because the state law changed in 2019.
Tim,
And,
could you state your name for the record?
oh, I'm Tim Simpkins, sorry. Anyway, so the state law prevents cities, essentially, they call them municipalities, from being able to. In fact, you know what? Let me do this. I actually got the state law here. Got one for each of you. It's only 4 sentences. It's pretty easy. Anyway, and I think this ordinance that was proposed, so I submitted a bunch of information. I contacted, the city council members, people that I know around town, just random people. I also was in contact with the Indiana Beekeepers Association president, John Schellenberger. Anyway, I figured there's got to be a way to address as many concerns as possible while still being in compliance with the state law. Now, the state law is pretty restrictive, actually, and the ordinance that's been proposed, it doesn't follow the restrictions. So, I mean, if you look here on subsection B, just to start out there, it says a unit may adopt an ordinance, rule, regulation, or resolution that regulates beekeeping. Well, in terms of statutory construction, when they say something, when there's a list of something especially, and it doesn't have inclusive language, like it doesn't say such as, it doesn't say or other things or anything like that. This is the only things that the city is allowed to regulate, is the location and the number of beehives. And it has to be in accordance with the apiary, the Apiary Inspectors of America standards. So this ordinance that we have, it has things like where can you buy your queens? Well, beyond the fact that it requires you to get them from licensed beekeepers, and there is no such thing in the United States as a licensed beekeeper. You can't regulate that because that's not a number or location restriction. So there's things like that that are kind of bad. But I think the worst thing about this ordinance, and I wanted to, I knew I was going to be a little disappointed with whatever somebody changed from what I submitted, and that was fine. But there's some pretty bad things in here, like it does not account for swarming. every healthy hive will swarm at least once a year. And if the beekeeper's not allowed to do what it takes to prevent that swarm, then that swarm's going to go feral, and it could end up landing in your house, making its home there, which can cause thousands of dollars worth of damage. So, and the only real way that works to stop a hive from swarming is to split the hive. Well, in this ordinance, if you have less than 5,000 square feet, you're only allowed to have one hive. There's no like grace period or anything like that. And even if there were, it'd be kind of hard to enforce. So in what I had proposed, there were different ways to do it, but in this one, there's nothing. So the person that has one beehive, their hive gets ready to swarm, they can't split that hive. They have to let that swarm go feral, which is the worst thing you can have. Those bees don't care about ordinances once they're leaving the hives. They're going to go do what they're going to do. So just that alone, this ordinance that's been proposed should not be going through. But it doesn't follow the law. There's other things like it attempts to, so that one of the big problems with bees and people is that people will get in the flight path. And there's ways to make that flight path different so that they'll fly over the heads of people or in a different direction, those kinds of things. And there's several methods that are in the ordinance that each one of them is actually good. It actually does, they actually work, but you don't ever need more than one. One of those 4 things will work. To give you an idea, it says every house has to have a wall around the entire perimeter of the bee yard. Well, that would work. That would keep the bees from being able to go, as long as it's 6 feet high, it's going to fly over the heads of people. Well, there's another method that does it. It's called a flyway barrier. Now, a flyway barrier, generally, if you had one hive, you wouldn't need one longer than 6 feet long that's in front of the hive about 5 feet ahead. And the reason for that is when bees leave their hive, they basically go straight out. They can go at an angle, but they're going to go out that one side of the hive, and as soon as they hit a barrier, they're going to fly up. Well, when bees fly up, they don't come back down until they're landed on the flowers. So that keeps the bees over the heads of people. So if you have a flyway barrier, you don't really need a fence. Now, in what I proposed, it was if somebody has a fence, then they don't need a flyway barrier. But if they don't have a fence, they need a flyway barrier. Well, another thing that's in the ordinance is you have to point your hive away from neighboring property. Well, if you have a flyway barrier, that's redundant. You don't need to do that. And then also, in this ordinance that's been proposed, they say if you go 10 feet above the ground, that you don't have to have a perimeter fence. But you still have the requirement to point your hive away from neighbors and the requirement to put a flyway barrier up, which is a fence. And you don't need all 3 of those. It's like saying in order to go to the top of the building, you have to take the stairs, the escalator, and the elevator all at the same time, and it's kind of ridiculous. So unfortunately, nobody, got the opinion of a beekeeper or anything like this on this. They went to Greenfield, got that ordinance, and I guess because that ordinance passed there, they assumed that it was good, and it's not. It's probably about as bad as it can be. And we can make a better ordinance, and it would be better. I mean, that swarming thing is just, it's ridiculous. You can do it without having hard limits. I know that that's one of the things you can do is have hard limits on the number of hives, but you don't need to. You can have it without having hard limits, which would allow, because imagine somebody's got the ability to have 8 hives. Up to 8 hives, I think, is allowed in the ordinance. Maybe it's 4. I can't remember. Whatever the maximum number is. Well, every year, every one of those hives will swarm. And if they're not allowed to make more hives, at least temporarily, they can get rid of them or whatever. But you have, and then on top of it, you split a hive, and your old hive may not survive. So once you split the hive, or it swarms, it may not survive either. But once you split the hive, it takes at least 4 weeks before you'd know if your old hive is going to survive, if it's produced a new queen and all of that. So anyway, It needs to go back to the drawing board, and we need an ordinance that complies with the state law, but this one is not a good one. And so, I don't know, but if you had any questions, I probably have the answers for you.
Do you raise bees?
I used to. And before I moved here, for 7 years, I kept between 2 and 4 hives in my backyard. And actually, my neighbors didn't even know for 2 years that I had bees until I went over and gave them honey. And they didn't even know I kept them in my backyard until another year later. And those bees were 20 feet from their front door. And they wouldn't have ever known it because what I did, and instead of pointing the hive away from their property, I actually pointed it towards their property because that's where the fence was. Caused the bees to fly up and over them. They never even knew. So, I mean, there are things that can be done, and they're pretty reasonable things. And we don't have to go saying you have to do at least 3 of these mitigation methods to do one thing when one will work. Anyway, yeah, so I did.
Interesting information.
Sounds like more info needs to be made.
Before you leave,
Besides-
would you give me your phone number? and
I will, yeah.
Any questions, discussion?
I just make a motion to table it.
Yeah.
Do further
Yeah.
research.
Second that,
I agree with that.
third, fourth. Haley, roll call, please.
Jim Baker,
Yes.
Rick Day,
Yes.
Joe Mullinax,
Yes.
Ron Ryland,
Yes.
Dennis C.,
Yes.
Mike Siblett,
Yes.
Drew Stevenson,
Yes.
Sandy Faust.
Yes. Okay. The bee ordinance has been tabled.
We'll have to schedule a parte meeting, and we'll get this back on.
Okay. Next business is to vacate an alley between parcels commonly known as 500 North Broadway and 20 Albert Street to make a utility easement. Does anybody have any discussion on that?
Okay, so we had a request to get this done, but the utilities denied it because they have a bunch of overhead for the electric and then water pipes and stuff in the alley. But it's overgrown, and there's neighbors around there that like to drive through it, and the gentleman that owns the T-Mobile building was the one requesting it. So I talked with Dustin and with the utility guys, and we all kind of decided to make it a utility easement, because T-Mobile and then the neighbor there at 20 Albert are the ones that have been actually maintaining that alley. With the neighbors going through it with their cars, they were putting ruts, it was messing up the mowers and all that stuff. So that's why we went ahead and got it surveyed, and now there's a utility easement that I'm going to get recorded tomorrow, and then we'll vacate it, and that'll get recorded as well. So it'll just be a simple utility easement. It makes all people happy.
They're all good.
So
Okay, is there any discussion? Questions?
Yeah, I live at 20 Albert Street.
I'm sorry?
I live at 20.
Can you come up here, ma'am, to the microphone, please?
Yeah.
I live at 20 Albert Street, and that's my parents' property. And is there anything we can do to keep people from driving through there?
Would you speak into the microphone, please? You talk
said-
very softly.
Well, I live at 20 Albert Street. That's my parents' property.
Okay.
Is there anything we can do to keep people from driving through there?
Well, if we vacate the alley, it can be
Because I'm the
Can't
one,
be used, period.
me and T-Mobile are the ones, because I mow up to the sidewalk of their property, and then they take care of the rest.
Yeah, once it's vacated, it's private property. So
Okay,
that'll keep people,
The
Hopefully from driving.
only thing you have to worry about is you can't build on it. You can't build anything in that alleyway.
oh, we're not
fences,
gonna
no
build
gates,
on it,
nothing.
we just mow it, that's
Yeah.
all we're doing. So that's still my parents then,
Half of it will be, yes.
okay,
your parents will actually have
Half of it.
half of that,
okay,
and then T-Mobile will have the other half.
okay, thank
And
you.
it'll only you two.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay. I make a motion, we vacate the alley between 500 North Broadway and 20 Albert Street.
I second the motion.
Are there any questions, discussion? Haley?
Jim Baker,
Yes. Yes.
Rick Day,
Yes.
Joe Molines,
Yes.
Ron Ryland,
Yes.
Dennis C.,
Yes.
Mike Siblis,
Yes.
Drew Stevenson,
Yes.
Sandy Faust.
Yes. Is the person that owns T-Mobile here?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay. The lady that just spoke,
She left.
she left? Okay. Well, she has to go to the council meeting next week. Okay. The next item is Haley Shook's resignation.
So this will be Haley's last meeting with us, so wish you well, and
Thanks.
hopefully we find somebody new. This is going to be a challenge for us again. We're
Oh.
going to be in the hiring circuit again.
Yeah.
The ad has already been in the paper. Has anybody come up yet? I've heard
Not that I've known.
I've heard a couple people already talk about it, so
Oh, okay.
at which time we'll have to have an executive meeting, go over resumes, and then an interview process, so.
Is there any possibility of your daughter
No.
filling in? There's not.
Not right now, no, she is full-time job.
Okay, I didn't know how that was. I mean, that worked out pretty good last time. So.
Yeah. So for right now, we're just gonna have to wing it.
You got till July 1st to find a qualified candidate. Good luck.
Did I tell you I liked you?
No.
Good.
Haley, we've enjoyed working with you. You've done a fabulous job,
Thank you.
and wish you all the luck in the world in your new position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is my resignation.
Did I say that out loud?
That's why Joe was giving you a hard time before.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
After all your years of service, I've served with you for 8.5 years now.
12.
No, I've served with you
Oh.
for 8.5 years. You've been there 12, I've been there 8.5. There's a difference in between us. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
She's been a real rock on this board, so always volunteering to help with everything, and yeah, it'll be missed.
Thank you. Okay, that's it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to call to order the City of Peru Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. It is June 25th, and it looks like it's about 6:27 p.m.
Okay. Max Glassburn. Ron Ryland.
Here.
Mike Siblis.
Here.
Brent Wedding.
Here.
Mike Wilson.
Here.
Okay, before we get started, we will handle the special exception for parcel 52-08-27-302-094.000-016, commonly known as 68 South Wabash Street. And then we are going to amend the agenda and have the special exception for the mineral extraction and the setbacks moved to the end of the agenda so that we can push some of these other things through that are going to take less time, because I know there's a lot of remonstrators here that would like some time to speak. So we're going to move that to the end of the agenda so that not everybody has to stay. All right, so is the gentleman here for 68 South Wabash Street?
Are you going to do the minutes?
Oh, yes. We'll do the reading and approving of previous month's minutes.
I make a motion, we suspend with that and accept them as they are.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Roll call.
Max Glasper?
Yes.
Ron Ryland?
Yes.
Mike Sablis?
Yes.
Mike Wilson?
Yes.
Brent Wedding?
Yes. All right, now is the gentleman here for 68 South Wabash Street.
This is old business.
So there's no new discussion? Because when we tabled it, he was supposed to be looking to see if he could find other places to have it.
Right. And I gave him a call, and I never got a call back, so
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure.
does somebody want to make a motion to keep it tabled until we hear from him? Or do we want to remove it from the table and he can
I make a
approach us
motion,
again?
we remove it. Second. He wants to do it and come
He
back.
can come back. Sounds good.
Okay. Max Glasper?
Yes.
Ron Ryland?
Yes.
Mike Sablis?
Yes.
Mike Wilson?
Yes.
Brent Wedding?
Yes. All right, we're going to move to new business. A use variance for 52-08-27-302-065.000-1016, commonly known as 70 West 2nd Street. Is there anybody here for that today? Yes. Looks like you're looking for a use variance. Would like to operate a sober living facility within 3,000 feet of another similar facility? That is correct. Okay. And then there's also a use variance for the same property that you would like to house up to 10 people instead of 8 for the father's house for sober living.
That's correct.
All right. Can you kind of tell us who you are, what your mission is?
I'm Jamie Centers. I'm the board president for the Father's House. We have a sober living home in Logansport, the first one in Logansport. That's the only other sober living home that we have currently. And we would like to expand into Peru because we feel the need for sober living in Peru is great. So we're a nonprofit. We have letters from our neighbors from Logansport, and we have our core values and mission and vision statement if you guys would like a copy.
Yeah, if you could give something to the board. How long has the other house in Logansport been open?
About 2.5 years.
Okay.
May I ask how many residents you have at that facility?
We currently have 8 in Logansport.
So there's actually 2 different variances that are being requested, so we might go interchangeably in our questions for them.
Sure.
How many bedrooms is the house going to have that you are requesting the variance for at 70 West 2nd?
It will have 5 bedrooms.
5 bedrooms? Okay. And how many bathrooms?
2.
2.
We could possibly add another bathroom if that's a problem.
I was just curious. Anybody have any questions? You said within 3,000 feet of another house. How far away is it from the other house?
It's on 70 West Second, and I think the women's home is 170 or 171.
So it's about a block away or so?
A couple blocks maybe,
Okay.
at the most, I think.
Okay.
When I measured it on Elevate, it was about 1,000 feet
Okay.
away.
This home would be specifically for men, so.
Okay. Which is what your other one is too, right? Is that what I
That's
heard you
correct.
say? Are there any remonstrators here? No? I see your letter of recommendation from your neighbor. Have you guys had any incidences where you've had to call law enforcement out for any issues at the other house?
No.
No? Okay. Any questions from the rest of you?
It's not a detox, right?
That's correct. So our home is after a gentleman's been through treatment or has come out of incarceration and has some clean time already. It's just a way to, it's a buffer between putting people back out into their environment they were previously in to, hope that they can get some clean time, more clean time. And we are a faith-based, Christian-based home. But that doesn't restrict anybody from coming.
Right.
How much square foot is the house?
It's 22 something, I believe.
Do you think that's adequate for 10 men? Plus, I'm sure there's somebody, staff that would be living there too.
So the way it works is we have a live-in staff house manager who would be part of that 10.
Okay.
So he would be just taking one bed space from the 10. That's the way our other home is.
What's the one right down from it? Is it just all women?
Yes. It used to be All Things Are Possible, but I don't believe they go by that name anymore.
Serenity House, I believe.
Serenity, yes,
Serenity.
that's what it is, yeah.
Is there any record of any disturbances there from law enforcement?
Not that I'm aware of.
I will say that our neighbor who wrote the letter, he said the guys have been the best neighbors he's ever had there in the home. And you can see that he asked them to watch his home while he was gone on vacation.
Very good. Well, if there's no other questions and no remonstrators, I say we bring it to a vote. Do we need to do two separate ones for each variance, or are we just?
Yeah, let's do
okay.
two separate.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept variance for the applicant would like to use the house. What are you looking at on this?
The first one would be to have a sober living facility within 3,000
Okay.
foot of another one.
That's our,
Oh, is there a second?
I'll second.
Sorry. Max Glassberg,
Yes.
Ron Rylance,
yes.
Mike Sibilis,
Yes.
Mike Wilson,
Yes.
Brent Wedding.
Yes. All right, and now for the second variance.
I'll make a motion that to allow 10 men instead of 8.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Mike Wilson seconds.
Okay. Max Glassberg,
Yes.
Ron Ryland,
Yes.
Mike Sablis,
Yes.
Mike Wilson,
Yes.
Brent Wedding.
Yes. All right, so you are good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, and thank you for what you're doing.
Now they have to go to the council meeting?
Do they have to go to, no?
You don't?
I will just need you guys to sign the finding of facts for those that
Okay.
are in your packet.
All right. Next on the agenda, we'll jump back and move back into old business. And we will hear about the special exception for parcel 5208261007.000 -015, commonly known as East Wabash Road, to allow mineral extraction in an area zoned A3 contingent upon the granting of the request to rezone from an R1 to an A3. And I believe they got that right at City Council? So now they're just here for the special exception to allow mineral extraction. All right. Would you guys like to come up? I will state that most of us have been here for the last planning commission meeting and also for city council. So while we do want to allow you to have time to speak, please remember that we're looking for new information because we've read the packets and I know we've all done a lot of research, I believe, and also heard these things. So please try to keep comments brief or stick to new findings because we do need to make a decision.
Thank you. Just briefly, Josh Petrino on behalf of the petitioner, and to piggyback on that, we're just going to provide updated proposed findings of fact, just stating the changes that now we do have the amendment already done, and then I believe it was Mr. Wilson had made a request for some additional or better maps to see some of our measurements in our drawings, so just want to pass that out.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Excuse me, can we have one also? Thank you.
And we'll just reserve any time to respond to any new material that comes up. Thank you.
For my frame of reference, can you, the yellow line is where you would be putting the berm, right?
The yellow line is where the mineral extraction would take place. So that's inside the service road, inside the berm. The last time the service road and the berm totals about 113 feet. So this is us kind of drawing that line a full 150 feet back, so an additional 37 feet, and it shows the distance from both the lot line and the actual structure.
Okay, and so I've been by the house several times, so just for a reference for me, right now the corn kind of forms what looks like maybe a boundary. Is this similar to where the actual growing of the corn is? Is that going to be similar to where the wall is, or is that similar to where the minerals will be extracted?
Where the corn is right now is the Catton's property line.
Okay, so it would be
square.
back from there then?
Right, so it'd be another 113. It's going to be more than that because we're going to build the berm up there. The taller you build it, the wider it gets at the bottom. So that'll be a minimum of 113 feet because it's on the other drawing it's 53 feet and a 60-foot access road. So that yellow line is approximately inside of that 113 feet.
So the yellow line is within, it's further away from the house than what the corn currently is. Correct. And I'm talking about
Correct.
The clean edges of the corn.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Right. I mean, Mr. Wilson just wanted the other one was hard for him to read.
Yeah,
so he
absolutely, and thank you for doing that.
Right.
But to give me a real-life visual, I kind of wanted
Right.
to give me a reference of how far back it would be.
Okay.
Are there any remonstrators that would like to speak?
Can I ask a question about the line on the yellow line on the south side? As far as like the median and the foreign houses? Podium, please. Sorry, I just didn't know on the picture.
The yellow line on the south, I just kind of drew that in. That's not actual, that's just. What was asked is Mr. Wilson wanted a cleaner line around the Catton's house.
Right.
This line on the bottom is, if you want to refer to the other drawing I gave you, a PDF file, that shows the berm actually around there. I just did this around the Catton's house just to show Mr. Wilson what he asked for.
Which is specifically what he was looking for.
Right. Yeah. This yellow line at the bottom, the rest of it is just approximately where it's at. If you want to go to the other PDF that we did presented before, do we have another one because everybody wants to see it? It actually has the berm on there. So this is not to the scale, no.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Right.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell from the picture.
has been submitted.
Right.
Okay. So I'm Stacy Stutzman. I live at 1835 East Paw Paw Pike. I'm actually here representing Chad Sutton, who wrote a statement but couldn't be here tonight and has in here why. He's at softball games. He's coaching tournament. So I'm just going to literally read his statement. It says, my name is Chad Sutton. I live at 1642 East Paw Paw Pike, Peru, Indiana, 46970. Although I spoke at the Plan Commission meeting on rezoning as well as the City Council meeting in regards to the rezoning, I am not able to attend tonight due to all three of my kids having baseball or softball games. I am a coach for two of these teams, and we are in playoffs, so missing was not an option. I am writing on behalf of my family and my neighbors that cannot attend or are not comfortable speaking at the meeting. Although you will only be voting on one special exception request and variance, I do feel it is relevant to mention what brings us here today. This land was rezoned from R1 to A3 at City Council meeting. This happened despite the Planning Commission giving a 5-3 unfavorable recommendation for rezoning, as well as the zoning administrator specifically stating that the land did not fall under definition of A3. Members of the City Council, including Bob Huber, Steve Anderson, and Erica Ulrich, clearly came into the meeting already in favor of rezoning. Bob Huber specifically made points that were factually incorrect, such as stating neighbors that were not directly adjacent can't even see the property. The City Council openly ignored the recommendation from the advisory board, as well as ignoring the zoning administrator's statement that the land did not fall under the definition of A3 ground. We ask that you look at the issue based off of the codes that you are to follow. We believe there is plenty of evidence to show hardship to surrounding owners as well as devaluation of their properties. Most of our points are contained in the petition that should have been provided. Surrounding owners will face hardship from dust and gravel pit, from a dust the gravel pit produces. I've provided a study that shows the effects dust from gravel pits can have for lung and breathing issues. Our neighborhood has many children playing outside as well as elderly that have lived in the area for many years. East Point Church, who has a clear view of the field despite what Bob Huber said, holds outdoor events such as runner's camp with multiple people in attendance that will have to breathe in this dust. In addition, the dust will travel to get all over houses and vehicles and create a lot of maintenance issues. As the petition stated, there are 23 houses within 1,300 feet of this proposed location. While mineral extraction is going on, there will be major noise issues as well. This will affect all the residences nearby as well as the businesses, which include a horse farm where expensive horses will endure all of these effects of dust. Lastly, mineral extraction has been shown to affect water supply and water quality. We have provided a study which shows this. In regards to devaluation, the hardship issues stated above would scare off some buyers from reducing the demand. The Catton House will be surrounded on three sides by a noisy and dusty gravel pit. Despite Bob Huber's incorrect statement at the City Council meeting, many of the surrounding neighbors can see the field. Views for nearby neighbors are drastically being affected, which can reduce value. I have spoken with many realtors that have stated they believe value will be affected for the owners that have a view of the field. Even without a view of the field, buyers may have many of the same concerns as the air quality, water quality, and noise. In regards to the variances being requested, please note these setbacks are in place for a reason. The current setbacks are determined to be reasonable for most mineral extraction operations. A variance on these amplifies the hardships mentioned above as well as devaluation. With an area as large as this proposed site, there is no need for reduction in setbacks. The developmental plan leaves a lot of ground not even addressed, so why is it necessary to get closer to the surrounding owners? Despite what the developmental plan states, if granted special exception and variance, Kokomo Gravel can do whatever it qualifies under the code. They say they will not blast, but there's nothing that prevents them from blasting as long as they have a mineral extraction special exemption. They say they will not have an ingress or egress on East Paw Paw Pike, but there's nothing to prevent that. While we believe the special exception and variance request should be denied, we strongly feel that the restrictions and covenants should be put in place to prevent things like blasting and ingress on East Paw Paw Pike. We also feel it is not good for long-term growth of Peru as stated in the petition. All potential development on this land is lost once it becomes a big hole in the ground. There is not surrounding acreage to develop around this. The area will be used up and end up like many other abandoned gravel pits that you can see in Indiana that are not well maintained. It will be one of the first things you see when you drive into Peru from Wabash. This land is much better suited for residential development or commercial development, not mineral extraction. We realize you are tasked with a tough decision to make. As a business owner in the city of Peru who handles title issues and zoning issues, I have to say I'm incredibly disappointed with the current administration and city council for reasons previously stated. We realize you are weighing the advantages of a company investing here, but keep in mind all of us objecting to this invest in Peru as well. Petitioners against this include business owners who invest heavily in the community. Petitioners against these requests include residents who make a point to shop local and support the city of Peru. I have talked to many business owners that are shocked at the decision that was made at the city council based on the information presented. All the petitioners here are the ones going to the local stores, sending their kids to Peru schools, coaching in local sports, sponsoring local events, etc. We ask that you consider this and our future investment in Peru when weighing this outcome. Lastly, it needs to be pointed out that we feel strongly that Mike Sablis should abstain from this vote. Mike Sablis has an extensive business relationship with Mike Boyer and the family by handling windshield work for Kokomo Gravel trucks as well as Shoshone trucks. In addition, he proceeded to try to argue with Sharon Catton at the last BZA meeting about the real estate deal that went bad. We see a clear conflict of interest. I know with any board I sit on, I would be abstaining with these conflicts of interest. Thank you, Chad Sutton.
And I can give each one of you a copy of that if you would like that. Chad has copies of that letter if any of you would want that.
Thank you.
I would like to have a copy of where the studies were done.
And I don't know in this packet if he has presented that. I came with all this information tonight. I don't know if the studies are actually in here.
And that's okay. If you see them, you can.
In our packet, there are several studies included.
in there, yeah.
And did you know in your packet, I think that this, all of this was in your guys'
Yes,
packet.
yes,
also.
it's in our packet.
Okay. And did any of you want a copy of Chad's letter?
I'll take a copy.
I would, yeah.
Okay. Max, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
Would you like one copy?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like one as well.
Do you want a copy?
Yeah.
I would like one as well, please.
Oh, sorry.
Just, nope, you're good. I just want to put it in the file.
Mike, in regards to the request that you recuse yourself, do you feel like you can fairly and impartially make decisions?
I
Or would
can.
you like to voluntarily recuse yourself and then the mayor would have to appoint
Well,
a substitute
you know what?
for you?
I mean, I would like to vote on it, and then, you know, if they want to repeal it, then they can. So.
Okay. All right. Any other remonstrators? Ma'am?
My name is Sharon Catton, and my husband is Larry Catton. We have lived at 2043 East Wabash Road for 33 years, and our home sits in the northeast section of Mr. Boyer's field. It's not easy for me to get up here and speak. I spoke at the Peru City Plan Commission meeting on May 28th, and at your zoning board meeting that followed that meeting. I also spoke at the Peru City Council meeting on June 3rd. Now I'm here to speak again. My speech is not real long, and I'd appreciate it if you let me read my entire speech. First of all, I really don't understand this. It would have been nice if we could have had something like this beforehand to study. But it looks like, from what he said, with the yellow line, is that where the berm is going to be?
Can you clarify that, please? I don't want to speak for you, so.
The yellow line. The yellow line is the inside of the access road. So their house to the west sets their property line's 190 feet from their house, then 113 feet. What's that?
So from our property line, you want 113 feet out. And this is the access road.
Yeah, it's going to be, this is going to be.
Okay, that's fine.
So the access road, this is where the mining would start.
Will the berm be on the outside of the access road or on the inside?
It's going to be between the access road
and our property.
Between the access road and their house.
And their house, okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I've tried to do my due diligence regarding the gravel pit and tried to state the facts regarding a gravel pit on a 2-mile radius of the city. Also, the concern that a spatial exception could create unnecessary hardship on the surrounding property or set a precedent for this district. Under Chapter 151.045, Spatial Exceptions, under D3, it states, in granting a spatial exception, the board shall take into consideration the restrictions outlined in Table 2, along with other restrictions in a fair and unbiased decision. And under A, the spatial exception will not create an unnecessary hardship on the surrounding property. B, the spatial exception will not devaluate the surrounding property. C, the spatial exception shall not set a precedent for that district. And in spatial exceptions under Table 2, it lists the use and the restrictions for mineral extractions. And they are A6, B7, C9, D3, E3, F2, G1, H1, and I6. And it states that these restrictions shall be the minimum allowed for spatial exceptions. Under C, which is minimum setback from residential dwelling, it says that the minimum is 1,000 feet. Under D, which is minimum distance from residential district, it says that the minimum is 500 feet. Under E, which is minimum district from loading berth to residence, it says the minimum is 500 feet. Mr. Boyer is requesting an area variance to reduce the setback to 100 feet, which he's saying here 113 feet from the residential dwelling and the setback from loading berth to resident. He's also requesting relief from the requirement of a 500-foot setback from a residential district. Where's the fairness in allowing Mr. Boyer to go from 500 to 100 feet for loading berth to resident and the residential district, and especially to go from 1,000 feet to 100 feet for the setback from a residential district or dwelling from our house? He's wanting to go from 1,000 feet to 100 feet. There's no way that the approval of Mr. Boyer's petition for spatial exception to permit mineral extraction in this field will not cause a hardship, and it will devaluate our home and property. We will also most likely lose our well. How can we not? Mr. Boyer said that he will be dredging in water and that there will be no dust. What about the water table? If he is to be dredging in water, where does that water come from? Also, where is he getting his water for his 5-acre freshwater pond? Those things will drastically lower our water table and cause our well to go dry. Our well is fine now and has been for many years, but when he lowers the water table, we are sure to lose our well. We cannot live here if we lose our well. The state has been monitoring our well for quite a few years, and we have their figures. Mr. Boyer keeps saying that his water dredging will not cause us to lose our well. The area that he will be dredging will keep getting bigger, and it will take more water to fill that hole, and thus lower the water table. If Mr. Boyer is so sure that we will not lose our well, why can't he agree to pay to have a new well dug for us? We have lived in our home here for 33 years and do not want to be forced to move or to have to put up with the hardship of a gravel pit. We love our home and living here, but with a gravel pit here, the noise and the dust will be very frustrating and annoying. The access road, which is to be 60 feet wide, will be all around the gravel pit. The access road itself will cause a lot of dust as his trucks and machinery will be driving on it daily. I know that Mr. Boyer is saying that this site was a site of last resort and that they would not be asking for a disruption if they had any other option. I know that not just any land can be used for a gravel pit. Miami County has 3 rivers running through it. How hard has he looked to find another option? I would think that there is other land he could buy that does not have homes close by or a home sitting in that field. What about land in surrounding counties? The City Council approved the change of zoning from R1 to A3 after they received an unfavorable recommendation from the Peru City Plan Commission, which voted 5-3 against the rezoning. Even Sandy Fouts, the chairman of the Plan Commission, said, "I'm sure somewhere in Miami County there is some place that you can find that would be agreeable, but that's not it as far as we are concerned." I am 81 years old, and my husband is 79, and this is not a time when our lives should be disrupted like it will be if you approve Mr. Boyer's petition for mineral extraction, setbacks, and variances. I ask you to seriously consider what you're voting for, and will it really be an asset to Peru, or just something to benefit Mr. Boyer? It sure will not benefit us or any of our neighbors. We have worked hard to have a nice home and property, and now to have to move at our age, it will be a hardship. Even if we can continue to live here, life will not be enjoyable living here. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Sir?
My name's Junior Stroud. I work for Kokomo Gravel. Mr. Boyer had no idea I'd be here. I run the Kokomo pit. I'm just take care of it for him. I got $250,000 to $1 million homes I have to deal with every day, keeping the dust down. They just built a house 2 years ago, almost $500,000. And listen, I understand everybody's point. The one thing that really irks me is they're going after Mr. Sablis. Just listen here today. Why are they going after him? They say shop local. Mr. Boyer used a local glass company. He don't get farming out to outsider. Why are they picking on him? I don't know what the rest of your guys' businesses do. Maybe he's done business with you in the past. I don't know. But for all these people to sit here and want to say how bad this is, but they want a UPS hub, a FedEx hub, well, they're going to have traffic all night. So I don't understand. Every time when you dredge, you do not blast. It's all underwater. I ran the crew last year when we was dredging first this year. I didn't know if anybody's been out there. There was a couple from one of the other meeting councils that come out and seen us. And I explained how it went. So they keep referring to we're going to blast. You're not going to blast when you dredge. Everything's done underwater. And I just wanted to say I just don't understand that they can come up here. The guy that wasn't here, somebody read that letter. He threw another councilman underneath the bus. I don't understand why they're saying anything about you people. You guys got your jobs. You do it to the best of your ability, and I appreciate that. And I live in the county, and I've been here for 20-some years after I graduated and come back. I just wanted to say what you're voting on is what needs to be done, and what they're complaining about, all these extra traffic, and he's agreed to put a wheel wash in and do all this to make everybody happy, and maybe even talking about raising the berm back there behind their house so nobody will see. And it's like, okay, all these other gravel pits, nobody's picking on them.
They're not in our backyard.
Do you live on our yard or our road?
No, but I go up and down your road all the time.
Where do you get your paycheck from?
Kokomo Gravel. Let me ask you people a question. When he opened that pit, 2001, 2002, we were told not to run any trucks down that road. The first truck, we hadn't been open a month, phone's ringing off the hook. Kokomo gravel. It wasn't Kokomo gravel. It was Miami trucking. We were forced to stay off that road, and we abided by that as drivers. There's all kinds of traffic.
That's the one promise that you've kept.
And you know, that's what he told us. Drivers, if we got caught there, you're going to be gone, because he didn't want to make any waves. And I understand where y'all coming from, but do you guys want to agree to UPS hub or some trucking company? There's 24/7.
We don't want a UPS hub out there either. We're in the county. We want to.
I'm going to call a point of order, please.
All right.
Speak to us.
All right, sorry, sir.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to state what I knew. Like I said, I take care of the Kokomo pit. They just built a $500,000 home. I'm in charge of dust control. If they have any problem, they call me. I work with the landowners, and then we're like, I don't know, maybe 100 feet from their house. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyer, I do want to ask a question. I hate to keep asking, but I want to make sure, because I'm looking at the original plan that you submitted. And on this plan, the access road is inside of your property from the berm. Are you saying it's not going to be any longer?
Yeah, the access property line, berm, access road.
Then access road. So the access road is within the berm?
Inside the berm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. The way it was answered before, I was under the impression it was outside of the berm, but it's inside.
It's inside the berm.
Okay.
There'll be the property line, berm, access road.
And so, again, the yellow line, which is similar, you said, to where the corn crop is now.
No, not the yellow line. The green line is where the corn crop is now.
The green line is where the corn crop is now.
It's the
Okay.
property line.
And that's going to be where the berm is?
The green line?
Yes.
No. Yeah, I mean, the green line, the berm will go along the property line. It'll be, 53, well, it'll be wider there than that. It'll be probably 60, 75 feet there. So it'll be the
away
berm
from the property line.
No, it'll be the green property line. The toe of the berm will be right at the property line. Then you're going to have the distance.
So
Where's the other drawing?
And how far is the property line from the residence? Is that what this? Because there's many different measurements here. I just want to make sure that we all understand, because that's what we're trying to make sure of.
The property. This is their residence.
Right.
Their property line is 190 feet.
Okay. Okay.
And then you have 113 feet to it, so approximately 310 feet. And then down here, you take 113 feet off that. That's about, it's like 100 something. So it's 113 feet from here, and their property line is.
So the berm, if I'm understanding this correctly, the berm is basically going to be right on their property line.
The yellow is meant to show approximately where mineral extraction would take place.
Okay, and that was my next question. So speaking of mineral extraction, I see this freshwater pond. Is that where you're starting the extraction? And that says it's phase 1. So how long, how many years before you get to their property?
Depends on sales, but maybe 6-7 years.
Because will you start here and work your way around, or what's the plan?
We can't hear.
Can somebody use the microphone? We can't hear back here.
This one. So what I've asked him is, where the pond is now is phase 1. What is his plan for expanding, and how many years between phase 1 and before he's up against your property? I want to know the rate of expansion and kind of the flow that he plans to go, and that's what he's handing out now.
So, I guess I have a question. I don't understand. So, you're saying phase 1 is the pond. So, before the pond goes in, does he have to build the wall completely around? Is that phase 1? The wall goes up first?
Phase 1 of extraction.
Well, here's how. So how we'll go. We'll have to put the drive in. We'll strip the overburden, enough overburden to build the berm clear around the property, to get the road put in and get the overburden, to take the overburden off to build the berm. Once the berm overburden's off, which is dirt that you can't process or sell, Then we'll take the rest of the material down to the water level and stockpile it, haul it out, down to the other project or plant down the road, going to the east on Old 24. And then once we get down to water level, groundwater is about 10 feet. We'll bring the machine in to dig the water or dig the material out of the water. We're not dewatering. We're not blasting. I've never blasted where I'm at now. Been there for 24 years, never blasted there. If they're concerned, we're not dewatering, so the well should not be affected. If there is affected, there's a statute on the law that they can, if they want to come at me and they can prove I've done it, I have to pay them for the wells.
And to be fair, I was in the last meeting that the reason that wasn't enforced before is there was no prior readings. But per Mrs. Catton's letter, the state is aware of her readings now. So if it was determined that he caused your well to run dry, the state would enforce him digging you a new well, correct?
Quick point, I thought the statute said that it had to be from dewatering, and they're clearly saying they're not dewatering. So if they're not dewatering, and they still lose their well, they get nothing because they weren't dewatering, but yet they still lost their well. How can they dig down there to get water, 10 feet, he said, he told us 11 feet, and not cause, I mean, that is the...
We're not digging for water, ma'am. We're digging for the material. The material's under the water.
You're going to dredge in the water.
The dredging the water will not change. Dredging the material out of the water will not change the water table. So.
I guess I'm not concerned about my well. I'm concerned about, are you going to put the wall up first? Right across the road from where you're putting this pond in, Sparks is back here, have all kinds of grandchildren. Are those grandchildren going to run across the road and fall in this hole?
The berm will be constructed, will be one of the first things done.
Okay. And then I have a picture here of Paw Pike, our road that we live on, and we have the utility lines. So how far in from the utility will your berm actually be? Here's a picture of
the toe of the berm will be inside the corn. I can't put it in the utility easement.
Okay, but how far in from this point will that be?
The toe of the berm will be at the corn line, basically. Wherever the easement is.
And right here's the end of the corn line, and that's right there at that
pole.
Mm-hmm. So I know this isn't, are we voting twice? Are we voting on mineral extraction?
There's two different variants.
Okay, so then on the variance, I want you to see this. I'm not following this. This is my road. This is the road that I live on. Here's the road. There's so many feet here, and then here is the utilities. Mm-hmm. So when you guys are voting on him wanting 500 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, whatever this is, for us as homeowners, don't we own, isn't our property line to the center of the road? Is that how you measure that? I guess that's not what I guess I don't understand.
All the setbacks are from Mr. Boyer's property line in.
The setbacks that he needs are not determined from your property line, but from his. So wherever his property line is, he has to go in.
So, okay, so his property, so he's saying his property line begins right there at the corn? Is that what he's saying? Because, I guess I'm not.
I can't. That's a county, okay, that's what we're trying to explain to you. That's a county easement, that's a county ditch. So I can't put anything in that county ditch,
So
the easement.
from the road here to the other, to where this pole sits
Mm-hmm.
with, you can't, then you have to go back, if the vote is 500 feet, then you have to go back another 500 feet from that?
It's 500 feet from a residential district, wherever that district is, that's the property line.
Okay, so here we go again, I'm lost.
Okay.
So that means.
Do you live across the road? Where do you live at? Do you live across the road, or where do you?
No.
Okay, where do you live?
I live on the other side of Miami Trucking, and when I sit on my patio, I see your cornfield.
Okay.
So I want to know what's going on.
Okay.
I I've
So
been
you-
there 35 years.
Right.
I want to know where this
So
is
you're
going.
looking past, your dad used to own Miami Trucking, part of it?
My father-in-law.
Father-in-law? Okay.
Yes, yes. So I guess I just want to know, I'm not sure about this. I don't know if you all know, Does our property begin at the center of the road when you vote on the setback? Does it go from the center of the road? Does it go from Stutzman's front yard? I guess that's what I'm asking. I don't understand where this all begins for the wall to go up.
Where do you guys consider the property line to go to 500 feet?
There, yes. And I guess that's what none of us actually, I don't know if you guys understand it, but none of us actually understand that. When you're starting this, are you gonna go from the center of the road? Or do you start like at Danny Sparks's house? Do you come off of, at the end of his property, then do you go 500 feet from that? Is that how that works?
When we all mow, we mow to the road. So are you going from the road through the utilities at such and such feet?
Had a map on the wall, and they could be pointing and talking about a specific point. We need something. Everybody participated.
We're going to measure the setback, and what we've requested is that we set back off of this parcel's property line back to the requested setbacks, and that's where that is the minimum distance to where mineral extraction could take place. So part of the buffer is indeed, under these plans, is to be the berm and the access road. In a vacuum, the berm and the access road, absent anything within it, would be a permitted use. So we could start that right up to the property line. We're asking to set back where mineral extraction takes place. That's why we're asking for relief from those specific setbacks.
My question, he is asking for relief. I read the request, but I don't understand what the burden is. That 500 feet, the 1,000 feet, the state of Indiana made those guidelines, and those numbers aren't arbitrary. So I'm wondering why the guidelines that are designed to protect the neighbors should be dismissed because of a hardship to the business owner. I want to see his business succeed, and I want to see the neighbors protected. So I'm just wondering why we would change the regulation that protects the neighbors.
If I may.
Thank you.
So the special exception comes with it under the code. That's a Peru ordinance that says certain setbacks have to be followed under this type of a special exception. What we are asking for, and according to the laws of the state of Indiana, we're asking for a variance based on the factors to get relief from those setbacks. So we've provided you evidence as to why we believe that complies with the state statute for the finding that a variance would be authorized and would be appropriate in this scenario.
I'm sorry, I missed the hardship part. I really am trying to understand.
I mean, my answer speaks for itself.
No hardship. No. And I have like a master's degree.
Well, as we discussed the last time, if we have to keep setting back feet and feet and feet, it does become a point where the project simply can't cash flow and it's not a profitable endeavor, and it's not going to happen.
We agree. That's why there's one guideline, and it should never change for him, because he should know what his guideline is. No one should change it on him. That wouldn't be fair. It shouldn't change and change and change.
This is why there's a state statute for variances.
And a county.
Mr. Boyer knew when he bought this field that our house was sitting there. He knew all this stuff. It's not fair, like this drawing here, he's going to be 100 feet from our property line. That is not right. When it says 1,000 feet and if you let him have 100 feet, if it's a hardship on him, that's his problem. He bought this land knowing our house was there and it was no big deal to him. He'd just get rid of us, buy us out, and have the whole land. So we're asking you guys to really think this through. I mean, looking at this, that's not right. Why should he get 100 feet?
If you want to look at the drawing you got in front of you, this one here. If you guys want to go to, last time Mr. Wedding asked about 200 feet. 200 feet's doable. If you look at this drawing, it's got these little boxes on it. Danny Sparks is, by the time you get to inside the berm from his residence, will be 190 feet away before mineral extraction will take place. Stacy Brown, 309. Charles and Stacy, sorry, is it Sutsman? Is going to be 215 feet. And these are all approximates. I didn't, Roger Ross is going to be plus 350 feet. Dustin Sis is 344 feet. The Hudson's is 292 feet. The Cattons will be 310 to the west and 250 to the south minimum. So it's.
Yeah, but measure 215 feet. 215 feet's not a lot when you go measuring this. From our front door.
About 70 yards.
So the minimum 1,000 feet there keeps talking about is from a residence, but that's including all mining extractions. That includes limestone. Like I said before the last meeting, if it's limestone you're blasting, I get it's 1,000 feet, but we're not blasting. It ain't no more digging a farm pond, basically. So.
Can you, at the planning commission meeting, and this is I've done hours of research. I've read articles. I've looked at my Google search history makes you think I'm opening this business because I've invested hours of my time. This is not something that I'm taking lightly. But at the last meeting, your video of the dredging equipment didn't work. I've researched, there's several different kinds of dredging equipment, but I don't remember which kind you said you were using. Can you refresh me on that?
I've got a picture of it. I've got a picture if you want to see one.
I'd like to, yes. Because I read information about every dredging piece of equipment that there was.
I believe Mr. Boyer mentioned that you wouldn't be able to see the dredging.
Right.
But that, I believe, is not accurate because I observed the dredging down at the present gravel pit many, many, many times. And the equipment sits up on top of the berm. The lines come down and then you have...
Can you come up to the mic, please?
I'll wait till he's done.
Okay.
So this is the machine that will set, approximate, this is where it'll start, and there's a dead man here, and it goes across. All this will be set inside the berm.
And is this one that shoots the gravel out into...
No, it digs it up. It digs up and piles it, and we load it with an excavator all the way.
Okay.
So this little blue box will be like the phase one, then it'll move to the center. Over here will be what this dead man is, will be sitting on the access road, and everything will come this way to keep it as far away from the neighbors as possible, to keep the noise down, the whole 9 yards.
Do any of the other board members want to see this video?
Well, I've got this one here.
The reason I asked is there's 5 or 6 different kinds of dredging machines, and so I wanted to know which one.
You're talking a suck dredge, probably. That blows the water, that blows it up. It's not a suck dredge. This is too rocky material to be a suck dredge.
Well, this is made by the seller. Okay, so this is the equipment,
You want to keep this, or?
Yes, sir, please. Anybody else want to see this?
That's where they dropped it now.
I think the residents would see that.
No.
Because their issue is dust.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to see this video?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we would like to see it.
Yeah, they need to see it.
Dave, there's not a way we can put it on the screen, is there?
Not easily, no.
Okay.
Can you describe it?
Yeah, could you describe it to us?
So I don't know if I'm going to do a great job of it, but it looks like that there's a cable stretched across the pond, and then a bucket goes down under the water, stays under the water for several minutes, comes back up with sand, and then it dumps it at the other end of the
We
cable.
see that down at the end of the road. Isn't it the same thing that you have at the end of the road?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we see this. We see this.
How high are your berms at the other end of the road?
The front road along Paw Paw Pike's probably 6 to 8 feet, 8 feet. Along the west side, it's only about 4 feet at the moment.
On the west side, it's only 4 feet?
Yeah.
So your berm here would be a minimum of 2 feet higher than,
It's what. On
are you
the
doing
drawing
6
here
or
says-
8? I don't remember.
Along Paw Paw Pike, it's probably north of 6.
Yes.
Higher than 6. Along
It says
the west
8,
side.
it says 8 feet there. Is that what you're
On
gonna
this,
do?
on this property, yes.
Okay. But on the other one, you said it's probably 6?
Along the west side of the property, between me and the next neighbor, Elaine Anderson, it's only about 4 feet at the moment.
And is that where, if you're sitting east, you'd be looking at the 4, so you would be looking over the 4-foot berm, is that correct?
No, we can drive right down Paw Paw Pike, and the one that's facing Paw Paw Pike, if you're driving down the road, yeah, you can see that dredge through there.
Okay.
We talk about it, we see it.
You see the top of the berm, or
Okay.
top of the mask. The dredging's only gonna be from November through March in the winter months.
So there won't be any summertime dredging?
I mean, there'll be, when we start, we'll get the berm off.
Right.
We'll get down to water level, and then when the dredge comes in, he'll be there from November to March, because he's out of Wisconsin, he comes down here in the winter, and we'll do the dredging in the winter.
And that's gonna be that way every year or just this year?
No, every year.
Okay.
And I have one other question. I have a question for Mr. Boyer. Mr. Boyer, how many years have you been at the end of the road?
We got zoned in 2000 and closed on the property January of 2001.
Okay, so am I right to say that that gravel pit down there has done its diligence and it's done, you can no longer dredge that, that's why you bought the new property?
It's, at some point, it'll run out of resources, yes.
Okay, so you said you bought that in 2000? So in 20 years, I'm still gonna be alive and be at my property. So let's say it's got a life of 20 years. In 20 years, when the new one has come to an end, what becomes of that property? What do you do with that property then? Do you leave it as a hole in a wall? Do you try to come up with something to do with that? Or what happens in 20 years? If the one at the end of the road has done its diligence and it's done, and you needed this in to pull more out, and in 20 years, it can no longer be dredged or anything brought up out of it, then what happens to this hole? I guess that is another question. There's a lot of us that still live on that road that, well, we're still going to be alive. When it's done, it did its duty, we're still going to be there. What happens to that hole then? What do you propose to do with that?
Well, the gravel pit I got now, I've got 2 people wanting to buy it, to use it for recreation and other items.
Okay.
And most gravel pits, I can take you to and show you, I think at the last BCA and the Planning Commission or City Council meeting, there's several gravel pits around Indiana that becomes nice house divisions around the
You
lakes.
can't put a house out there. There's a hole, and there's a road on one side and a road on the other.
You want to call the order?
Point of order.
Please.
Please.
Point of order,
Point of
please.
order.
Please, point of order.
We will have you removed if you keep this up.
All right. I think it is a fair question to ask
That's fine.
what your plans are, but I'd like to hear from you, not your attorney, please.
That's fine. So at the end of the road, or if you want to call it the end of the road, I mean, the berms can be knocked down. If there's enough enough land there, you can still put houses around there and build houses around. There's several gravel pits that's had multi-million-dollar homes, lower homes, and other homes built around it. If you leave enough room around the edge of the water, you can put a house there.
With the setbacks being requested and your plan of dredging and extracting minerals, do you foresee there being enough room when you're done? Do you foresee there being enough room with the setbacks and the variances that you're requesting?
Yeah, inside the berm, it'll be off the road, off the property line, about 113, probably more like 150 feet by the time we're done. So you'll have to come in and slope the banks down. You'll have to get rid of the berms, knock the berms down, put them in. So as you knock the berms down, you'll build more land out to build a house on.
Okay.
Or have a backyard on.
All right. Are there any other remonstrators or questions? Ma'am?
My My name is Elaine Anderson. I really didn't plan to speak tonight because I thought that Chad Sutton's letter told you about everything that you need to know. But Mr. Boyer has lied to you all tonight. The property next to his present gravel pit is owned by an LLC called RBK Farms, LLC. My sister and I are the owners of this property. This property has never had a 4-foot berm on the west side. In fact, not too long ago, Mr. Boyer hired Peanut Smith, Mr. Smith, to come and knock down the berm so it is flat on the ground. And I have photos, and I have presented those to the Miami County Plan Commission because he is in violation of a berm. He also dug down to the water to allow the geese, the goslings, to come up and go into my field. For years, I fought the geese. I've always gotten a goose permit to eradicate them. It's very difficult. Once somebody pulls into my field, they waddle off back down into the pit. I've talked to the DNR. The DNR says, does he have a berm along there? And I said, no, he's knocked it down. And what berm, little bit berm does exist is about this tall. You measure, you tell me, how many feet would that be? I'm 5'4", so 4 feet would be up here, right? It is not. How many people went out there and saw that gravel pit? Just one? Two?
I went out.
I'm on the west side, okay? There is no 4-foot berm. It's supposed to be a fence along there, a 6-foot high woven fence according to the ordinance. Even the Miami County ordinance specifies that. The city ordinance does as well. There has been no request to have a variance for a fence and call it a berm. And also be aware that when you have a setback, you can't do anything on the setback. You can't build a berm, you can't build an access road. So I hope you consider all of these things when you vote tonight. Thank you.
All right, if there's no one else, does anybody on the board have any further discussion or questions?
I still feel like I would be better served to have better graphics, and particularly some that could be presented on a wall where we could be discussing some of these details about property lines, berms, setbacks, face of house. Those things with people's involvement could be addressed clearly with a nice diagram on the size of that screen that would make it easier to understand some of the implications we're talking about here. If after 20 years this can be turned into a livable community, that's better than what I've heard in the past. But I would like to see perhaps some precedent for that. Is it possible someone could show me this is where one occurred, a gravel pit, and now this is what it looks like? If someone's developed properties like that, I think that's very persuasive to say this is not an end-of-the-road proposition. So I don't know if that's a request I can make. That would certainly delay me making a vote at this time, but I think it would be more helpful for people whose homes and lives and futures are at stake here for us to have a better understanding of what the future may hold under these circumstances. These diagrams, to me, are a little inadequate. I'm sorry. I'm an architect. I draw very well. I perhaps should give you my card so you could see how this kind of...
Yeah, now we're talking conflict of interest.
Well, I could find someone else, but these are a little inadequate. You've got real contentious issues about property lines, setbacks, berm locations, roads, people's property line. All of those things have to be clearly delineated for people to feel better that this will not impose upon their lifestyle, livelihood, investments, et cetera.
I have two questions. One is that we've seen phase 1 that's been presented, that's been shared at multiple meetings. Has anyone been presented phase 2 or phase 3? Do those things
That's what he
plans
just
exist?
gave us earlier.
So you have seen them, but we just haven't. Okay. And then my second question is, would it be more likely to be able to be a future residential area if the 1,000-foot setback was followed? And wouldn't there be more land to potentially build stable homes on? I'm just wondering.
I can't easily address that, but I would think Mr. Boyer may be able to.
Mike, did you look? He does have each person's.
I see that
arrows pointing, and he's got the footage away from each one so that you can see that. I just wanted to make sure you saw that.
That's barely adequate for me.
So, Mr. Wilson,
He's pointing at something. I'm not sure. What is it pointing to? I can see a vague image of a property, of a house. I beg your pardon, sir, but I would make it a lot clearer. I can't see. What are you pointing to?
That's Danny Sparks' house.
Okay, that's the house.
Yep, that's
Is
the
that
house.
the face of house, or we're talking about
No,
measurements?
the measurement, as you can see, is from right here. This little line here comes over to inside the curve there, in access road. That's fine.
I'm persuaded.
Everybody's got your opinion. So you asked for.
That's a better drawing.
Okay,
yes.
this is
It's a
gravel.
photograph.
This is a gravel pit next door. This is an old gravel pit that turned into residence. This is our gravel pit right here, our Kokomo location. Okay, here's one that is from Noblesville. All this is gravel pit. That's a limestone quarry. This has all been dug out and all housing put around it.
So these are turned into lakes, essentially?
Right.
Okay.
And the housing goes around.
Are they kind of freshwater lakes?
Freshwater
Fish and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, freshwater lakes.
Excellent.
And this is.
These people know this?
Yeah, this was all. This is, we presented last time. So this is 96th Street, Indianapolis. So Keystone Avenue is over here. So.
I think that's persuasive to me.
During our presentation to the Plan Commission, to some extent, the BZA after, we presented significant amounts of evidence and documents related to housing additions on lakes that were former gravel pits. Kokomo, Howard County, obviously, Marion County.
Well, I find that persuasive. I think they need to see that and know there's a potential down the road. Now, that still doesn't help you 20 years from now. But I don't want
My name is Michelle Wilson, and I actually live in Carmel, Indiana. And the 96th Street that they're talking about, I drive down, and it's usually covered with what is it, the gravel dust. Yeah, so it's Carmel, Indiana, it's not Peru. When we talk about $500,000 homes, I don't know what the average home value is here in Peru, in Carmel. I can't afford it. Anyway, I just wanted you guys to know, to compare Peru to Carmel is kind of like apples and oranges. So anyway, that's all. Do you have any questions for me?
I would ask, I'm sorry, what's the appearance of it? I mean, you're talking about what, a dust or a silt or something that you get a sense of?
Yeah, and you drive through it, and it literally depends on the weather, but it's dusty.
And this is after something's been developed, the whole housing development, or are you talking about an active gravel pit?
It's all developed around there. So you have a gravel pit kind of
and
in
you
the
still
middle
can
of
fill.
residential and commercial, because there are restaurants and stuff like that.
How is that gravel mined, extracted?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, that makes a difference, because the way Mr. Boyer does it is, you're in water all the time.
That's a fair question, and I don't know the answer, but I do know that if you've got trucks hauling gravel, that's what I'm seeing on the road. And I can't imagine that the way they mine it is going to be it's not going to be a cleaner gravel than what they're doing in Carmel. Carmel, kind of stringent with what they allow.
We discussed in the Planning Commission last time how those operations in Carmel are registered as limestone operations that bring a lot of blasting, pounding, dewatering.
Entirely different.
Much like the IMI
I-
facility as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would allow blasting right there on 96th Street with residential homes right there. So maybe they do, but I don't live that close to it.
I think the point was made about the difference in the mineral. The mineral and the extraction method would have made a big difference, so I understand that. But thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I want to know, you guys give this variance to up to 100 feet. When Mr. Boyer's done, 100 feet, that's only 30 yards. How are you going to put a house in there, a septic? Because these houses aren't city hookup, it's well septic. I want to know how we're going to possibly put septics on 30 feet or 100 feet of land with a house. After this is all said and done, it's an empty thing. And the rules of septics are really tricky in the present day.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna be a lot more restrictive with water.
It'd be great if you guys get into the mic.
They can get done manufacturing this whole in that acreage.
Can you
And
state
you're
your name,
talking
please?
Pardon?
Can you state your name, please?
Your name?
Can you state your name?
Who's your name? Who are you?
My name is Larry Catton.
Okay.
My question is, he's going to dig a hole in this 48 acres, okay? And you folks are talking about reclaiming the land, okay?
At some point.
Well, who's going to do that? The taxpayers, or is he going to do that? Somebody better stipulate, if he's going to bore the damn hole, he should be responsible for fixing it, okay? Nobody's mentioned that. Everybody says, well, we reclaim the land. Well, who's going to do it and who's paying for it? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, I believe we're ready to...
Excuse me, I can offer an opinion about that.
Yes.
I believe, quite likely, these are developments that developers buy.
Yes.
And they understand the cost of having to try to repair the land and make plots and deal with utilities and all that sort of thing. So typically, in America, the business owner doesn't do that. That's the next guy's problem. So I can just tell you.
Thank you for that insight, Mike. All right, I believe that we are ready to bring this to a vote, but I just have one more question. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be difficult. I want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. This, if you want to make your way up here, so at the edge of the access road, inside your property, that's where you say the mineral extraction would start, is that correct? Okay, all right.
It's not going to be a straight up.
Right, okay.
Okay, I have a question.
Last question, and then we're going to make a motion.
I just want to understand this. This yellow line that's on the paper, is that the access road? Inside the access road.
Clear to the south.
Okay, if that's the access road, then closer to our property will be the earthen wall.
Yes.
Okay, so is this earthen wall going to be up to our property line? That's my question. I don't see where this 100 feet,
The way it's proposed, yes, but ma'am, we're going to make a motion and
okay,
see if it...
yes, thank you.
I would also like to add that when we vote on the setbacks, if we do it one by one, so that way we can get that all.
So the first special exception is for the mineral extraction in an area zoned A3. I would like to propose that we make a motion that would allow mineral extraction contingent on the fact that there will be no blasting allowed. If there were any blasting, you would need to come back to this board because the variance is only good if there's no blasting.
I agree.
Does somebody want to make a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Max Glassburn,
Yes, no blasting.
Ron Ryland,
Yes.
Mike Sablis,
Yes.
Mike Wilson,
Yes.
Brent Wedding.
Yes.
Now, on your finding of facts that are in your packets, make sure that you put that on there, so it
We
will-
did. I did.
Okay.
All right. We are going, do you want a separate motion for each one of the setbacks?
It doesn't have to be a separate motion, but I'd
We
like
just have to spell it
vote.
out.
Yeah, I would like to vote, so that way we have it specified
Okay.
for the finding of facts.
All right. I'm going to try to be very clear and concise of how we say this. For the setbacks, I would like to make a motion that for the setbacks from the house in, that is the northeast corner, which belongs to Larry and Sharon Catton, that the setback would be 200 feet from their property line, which means they cannot put anything, the berm would be 200 feet from your property line. The proposed was almost right on your property line. Yes. I'm not comfortable with that. So 200 feet from your property line is where the berm could start.
Okay.
From, go ahead.
Just to make it, that would be from the residential district, like the relief for the 500, because that would be their property line. It would be, no, he's saying property line, so that would be the district. I just want to double check.
So let me continue and you can see if we need to tweak it.
Sorry.
We also would like for the houses along Pawpaw Pike, it looks like right now the furthest distance would be 344 feet from where the mineral extraction would begin. We would like to set it, and I think this will work for the Cattons as well by the time you get the 200 feet from their property line, then the berm, then the access road. Somehow we would like to set it up so that there is no mineral extraction within 350 feet of a house. That's 6 more feet than what you've currently projected, but I think it also gives more space because you wouldn't be able to dig for another 350 feet from Dustin Sisk's house, which seems to be almost the furthest back. Roger Ross is a little further back, but I don't have a measurement for that one.
And how much did you say? How many feet? 300?
For mineral extraction, yes.
For mineral extraction.
He could still put the access berm and, or the berm and the access road, but actual mineral extraction, 350 feet.
And that would be from the actual house?
From an
the
actual
dwelling.
house.
Okay. Okay.
That's on the south side of Pawpaw Pike?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're talking residential district now?
No. No. With your house, he's talking about the property line. That's the district.
Because you're right in the middle of their property. So we're trying to treat your property a little differently.
Okay.
The people on Pawpaw Pike at least have the benefit of a road being between them and Mr. Boyer's proposed operations. So I'm trying to be very careful of your property.
I'm very specific.
And from your property line is where the berm could start. And then on the inside of the berm, the access road. And then from the access road. So it's going to be further away than, we're talking the berm starts there.
Yes.
Then the access road, then the mineral extraction. Okay?
Okay, so then the houses on Pawpaw Pike would be 300.
350.
350, sorry. Okay, so
Can I
that
ask for
would be,
clarification?
Mr. Boyer may be able to answer, but the distance between where the berm starts and mineral extraction occurs, what kind of distance is that? Because we're measuring to a berm start.
About 113 feet.
So from berm start to mineral extraction. And at that point right there is where extraction can occur. Okay.
It's a lot farther away.
Okay.
All right. So,
Disagree.
yeah. So for the setbacks specifically, we're making a motion that the setback along the Catton's property line would be 200 feet from their property line. The variance for allowing actual mineral extraction could be for the houses on Paw Paw Pike no closer than 350 feet. For the actual action of mineral extraction from a house.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with where you want to put the berm or the access road, but the actual mineral extraction,
You made a comment about the road. You're talking about houses on the south side. Correct?
yes, on Paw Paw Pike. Also, these setbacks and variances are where I don't see the entrance in here listed, but we are approving all this. The entrance has to, no, I see where it's at, but I don't see it in the variance.
That would be the loading berth.
That'd be where?
The loading berth.
But I don't see it listed in here. And so, not
It
in.
says it right here.
Does it?
Well, but it doesn't.
So, but we are going to specify that the entrance needs to stay where it's at.
I'm sorry, what about the property directly west adjacent to that shares a property line with the field now, which is Danny Sparks' house, which is owned by trust?
Owned by who?
It's owned by a trust.
Is that the
To us,
property
that's
that's
the
for
property
sale?
No.
Danny Sparks' property.
Yeah, he's at 190 feet.
They share the
I
property
see it,
line.
I see it.
Now, I heard a rumor that you sold Mr. Sparks some land.
Let's not talk about any deals that are done outside of this, please.
Oh, okay.
All right. We'll try this one more time. I'm going to make a motion that the variance for the setbacks will be defined very specifically, that the Catton's property line, the setback from their property line will be 200 feet. No, that's what I said the first time. All right?
Okay.
For mineral extraction, the actual activity of mineral extraction, no less than 350 feet from any house. So,
On the west side.
but we just talked about
Okay.
including Danny Sparks, because that would be the only house that we're not
Right.
saying. So 300 feet from any house. We're talking about the activity of mineral extraction.
There's another house north of there. Miami Trucking has a house.
Yeah, Miami Trucking has a house.
They're not here to remonstrate.
Okay. Well, shame on them.
And if it's owned by Miami Trucking, that's a commercial property, not a personal property.
Okay.
All right? And again, the entrance has to stay where it's at. And you've already said no egress on Paw Paw Pike. So we're making these variances and these motions based on the proposed plan that you submitted. If there's any change or deviation to the plan, you got to come back for a different variance, because we're making these variances, or we're voting on these variances based on what you have submitted. All right, so I make that motion. Is it clear? Does everybody understand?
I second it.
All right.
A quick question, if they come
We can't have any discussion until we vote because we've made a motion.
just if they have a variance on top of what we're all agreeing to, how do we find out that they've made a?
The same process would be made. They'd have to
resubmit
send out
it,
notification
the
legal ad,
Yep, yep. All right, so a motion has been made. It's been seconded.
Who, was it Ron that seconded?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ron seconded.
Okay, so let's
Can you
do-
read that to us?
Yes. So we'll do the first vote for the setbacks for 350 feet from any house for the actual action of the mineral extraction. We'll do that.
Maybe we should say any, because of the house that Miami Trucking owns, any house that's not owned by a business or corporation.
Okay, any house.
You can say any residence.
And it's not Miami Trucking, it's Zach Black.
Business.
It's no longer Miami Trucking.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? So the first vote is for 350 feet for the activity of mineral extraction.
From any house.
Any house.
Not
Any residential home.
Any residential home. All right. Max Glassford.
Yes.
Ron Ryland.
Yes.
Mike Siblis.
Yes.
Mike Wilson.
Yes.
Brent Wedding.
Yes.
Okay. So then the next one, we will vote on the entrance must stay where it is at on the plan, on the developmental plan.
Well, basically, everything they've submitted, no egress on Paw Paw Pike.
Okay,
The
so-
entrance has to stay. So the plan has to stay as submitted.
Okay.
That'll
better
cover
than
the
what I was
entrance
trying to
and
say.
the egress both.
So a variance to allow the loading work as submitted.
As submitted.
Right.
Yes.
Sorry, trying to write it down real quick. Okay. Max Glassburn.
Yes.
Ron Ryland.
Yes.
Mike Siblis.
Yes.
Mike Wilson.
Yes.
Brent Wedding.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll vote on the 200 feet from the Catton property line. That is where the berm will start. Max Glassburn.
Yes.
Ron Ryland.
Yes.
Mike Siblis.
Yes.
Mike Wilson.
Yes.
Brent Wedding.
Yes. I believe that covers all of your variance requests. To both Mr. Boyer and the community here, we have put a lot of time and research into our voting and our decisions. I know that for both sides, it's emotional, as well as looking at your bottom line and your profit and your production. This board has been tasked with trying to both protect our citizens and promote business growth within our community. It's not an easy job. The very reason that our board exists is because people are seeking variances to ordinances that have been established. When we make decisions, inevitably, somebody is going to be disappointed. I hope that you can see that we have tried to hear you, to listen to you, and to make decisions that were somewhere in the middle of being both good for you and for businesses. It was not an easy decision, but I believe it's a fair and balanced decision that did not come easy. I will tell you that. It did not come easy. I thank you for everyone that spoke. I know public speaking is not easy. I know it was emotional. Thank you for taking time out. These have been very long meetings. I commend you for being involved citizens. I commend you for speaking your heart and your mind and doing the research that you've done. Thank you for being good citizens. That's what makes great cities, is citizens that are willing to take their time and speak at things like this. So thank you.
One just procedural issue. Would the board be adopting our proposed findings of fact?
Yes.
Probably needs to have.
I have a question. So if there is a belief that Kokomo Gravel has violated a part of this plan, who is it that we go see that holds their feet to the fire?
Haley, wouldn't that be code enforcement? Or would it be?
It would be the zoning administrator.
So whoever's taking this lovely lady's position.
It won't be me.
And what is her position?
She's the zoning administrator.
Zoning administrator.
So if you feel like you have an issue, you would go to them, and then they would be the one to investigate into it.
City of Peru.
Okay?
Just want to say, I make a motion to adjourn.
And so we do, I don't think we need to make a special motion, but we do accept and adopt all the fact findings that have been submitted. All right, if there's no other comments, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.